You also have an alliterative speech about Pete Alonso.
I am not as well rehearsed as others.
Scott had mentioned that Pete seems at least open or amenable to the idea of being a DH. How does that kind of affect your value of him and your idea of how he fits into this roster?
Pete's clearly a really good offensive player, and I think for any team, the ability to get his bat in the lineup in multiple ways is helpful, and it's great to know that Pete is open to stuff like that.
How busy has this been for you the last couple of days?
Yeah, these meetings are always a combination of, good portion of the day. Each day is tied up with MLB-oriented meetings and industry-related issues, and then a segment of the day is more meeting with different agents, talking to different teams. So we've been pretty busy, but kind of standard for what these meetings are. It's generally pretty full days, and try to just get a sense for where everyone is at this stage of the offseason. And as I said yesterday, I think everyone more or less understands that these are really long off seasons, and needs change, agendas change, positions on certain players can change over the course of the off season, and so this is really helpful just to get a starting point as we get going.
How do you feel about the DH position in general? I mean, could you lock in a big contract like that in that spot, or do you want the flexibility there, or how do you look at it?
I think you could look at it both ways. I don't have a set philosophy there. I think as we look at our team, we don't have that set DH at present. We have multiple players who could take at bats at DH, but we don't have someone who is going to live there right now. So that opportunity is open. And if that's how we work through the off season, that works out great. If we get to opening day and we don't have that set position, I also think that provides Mendy with some flexibility to rotate some guys through there. So I don't think there is one right or wrong way to do that.
Do you guys still feel like you need to give Vientos a balance between playing in the field to further develop his defense and the DH at bats?
Look, I think Mark's playing time is and always will be driven by his bat. He is a bat-first player. He works very hard on his defense, but he is a bat-first player. And I think he will go, and his playing time will go how his bat goes.
What does he need to do to get back to the 2024 form?
Yeah, I think Mark had this really magical season and magical second half in 24 that culminated with one of the better postseason performances in Mets history. And that's a really high bar for a young player to get back to. And for Mark, I think it starts with swinging at the right pitches. When he's going well, he has the ability to lay off of the spin away out of the zone, and when he's pressing a little bit, that can become a challenge. And so that's probably a good starting point. And then, like any power hitter, when you get the pitch, got to hit it hard somewhere. And throughout his career, that's kind of been Mark's gift. Is he hits the ball really hard, and if he can do that consistently, he's going to be a really good player.
Francisco Lindor had a little bit of a defensive down year. How much do you attribute that to some of the ailments that he had been going through during the season?
Yeah, I think Francisco, he plays such a demanding position. He plays every day. He competes so hard every day. And I think he's a pretty self-motivated individual that he's going to work really hard to get back to as good a defender as he can possibly be. I do think some of it was a product of some of the physical limitations he had this year. And he's working hard to ensure that doesn't impact him again going forward.
How much do you think that broken, was it toe?
Yeah.
Toe, yeah, that played into it.
I think for a little while the toe played into the lateral range, and then I think as we got towards the end of the season, some elbow discomfort played into the arm strength. I think when you combine those and you're playing every single day at Major League shortstop, it's gonna cause you to probably not make a couple of plays that you normally would make.
Dave, for teams that are maybe looking for center field help from like next acquisition standpoint, are there particular challenges with that market?
I don't know. Look, center field's a premium position. It can be difficult at premium positions to to find players who are really good defenders and really good offensive players. That's why we're really happy we have Francisco Lindor, right? And we're really excited about some of the players who are coming through our system because we think they can be those type of two-way players at premium positions. But I don't look at this center field class in terms of what's available in free agency or what's available in trade as necessarily lighter than we would expect for premium positions in a standard offseason.
Is McNeil still in the mix for center field?
You know, I think probably less. I think we love Jeff's positional versatility, but I don't see us looking at that as a significant portion of his time next year.
Given that Nimmo and Soto are defensively considered subpar, are you looking for a glove-first center fielder? Is that kind of the focus there?
I think what I'd say to the first part of that question is we think both of those guys have the ability to be above average defenders. And so our focus is to do everything we can to help them both be above average defenders. And I think they're committed to doing that. In terms of center field, it's a premium position up the middle. We'd love to have a plus defender out there. I think Tyrone Taylor is a plus defender, and so that's a good start to have him under control right now. And where we go from there, we'll see.
What more can you guys do to aid them defensively, and not just Nimmo and Soto, but you said yesterday that the guys who are coming back all need to be better defensively. What more can you guys do to help them get better?
So I think the first thing is the recognition that it's just as important as offense. And we have a tendency in this game, because this is not just the Mets, it's everywhere, because offense is so much easier to see and scoring runs is so much easier to see, in some ways easier to measure than preventing runs, especially defensively, that we focus so much of our training time and our efforts and our energy on how can I get better offensively, how can I get the most out of myself on any given day from an offensive production standpoint. And at times we forget about the other side of the ball. And so I think step one is ensuring that we all understand how important the other side of the ball is. Step two is I think we're very excited about the coaching staff we're putting together to help our players get better defensively.
Every year, trends seem to emerge, especially in October. Kind of narratives take off. The splitter usage this year was a big one. The Toronto's contact. Do you take away anything from stuff that you notice from other teams while you're watching at home? You're like, we're going to implement this a little more, or is it just like, hey, we're doing our own thing? We already know what we're doing.
I think you always try to learn from what your competitors are doing. I think we probably will shy away from sort of learning from the narratives that emerge each offseason, because to your point, they change from postseason to postseason. They change depending on who actually won the last game. The narrative for this year might be slightly different if, let's say, the Mariners happen to get to the World Series instead of the Blue Jays, or if the Blue Jays had happened to win the World Series instead of the Dodgers. I think maybe the lessons you draw then are slightly different. But I do think it's important that we are constantly watching what our competitors are doing and trying to glean whether they're doing anything better than we are.
You spoke yesterday about the plan to add relievers for the bullpen. Just how does Dylan Ross fit into that, and what you like about his year last year?
Yeah, I think Dylan's a guy who's going to come to camp with a chance to make our team. It's a big arm. A unique guy who throws really hard, who can also zone up his secondary stuff. It's elite stuff. We got to work to help him get in the zone a little bit more. He doesn't need to be a premium strike thrower, but he can get in the zone a little bit more, and I think that'll help him at the major league level. And we would expect him to contribute throughout the season next year.
Ronny Mauricio kind of got buried the last maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah.
In retrospect, do you maybe wish he could have gotten some going down to Syracuse and gotten at bats, or how do you look at that?
That was a complicated one, because we were trying to both do what was the best possible thing for our major league team, have the best 26 players up at the major league level as we possibly could, care about Ronnie's development, and also ensure that we had the ability to option Ronnie in 2026.
Right.
He missed so much development time. And had we sent him back down to AAA, we would have burned his last option.
Okay.
So by keeping him up for that last month, even though he wasn't playing a lot, we preserved the last option. He now has the ability to go through, if he needs it, the entirety of a developmental year and get some real at-bats under him.
Do you think he'll play winter ball?
He's going to play a little bit of winter ball, yes.
Are you guys okay with that, given what happened last time you played winter ball, or is
Yeah,
it
look,
about reps right now? About
yeah, we look. What happened last time was incredibly unfortunate. We also can't let a somewhat freak injury prevent us from what's likely best for a player and his future.
Understand on a certain position in winter ball.
Some of that's going to be he's going to play around the infield, but some of that's going to be dependent on what the needs of the winter ball team are.
Understanding that you want to improve defensively, do you feel like there's an added risk of having more contact-heavy pitchers as opposed to guys with swing and miss stuff?
I think in a perfect world, you have pitchers who generate elite swing and miss. There is a little bit of a balance there as pitchers who generate elite swing and miss. Often at times they're going to run higher pitch counts. Tougher to get a little bit deeper into games. We ran into that at times this year where we weren't getting deep enough into games. So sure, I'd love to have a little bit more swing and miss on our staff. I think we are going to get there with the young players we have coming, who almost all of them generate above average swing and miss, and I think we'll continue to do so. With that said, we are going to have some contact-oriented pitchers on our team, and when balls are put in play, we need to do everything we can to convert them into outs.
Apologies if you were asked this yesterday, but would Jeff McNeil be a real possibility for first base for a playing time?
I don't think we have any set plans yet as to what Jeff's exact positional distribution is going to be. I think it's a huge benefit to our club that he can fit in a number of different ways. And if we get to the point where we think first base makes some sense, we'll talk to him about it.
Given some of the short starts you guys had yesterday, is there any sort of appetite for like the traditional long man role out of the bullpen?
Something we've talked about is especially after the trade deadline, we got to the point where we had a lot of one-inning relievers in our pen, and you can do that for a short period of time, but when you combine that with lack of length out of the starters, which is what we had, especially in the month of August, it taxes you, and we got taxed. So there's a recognition that having some multi-inning flexibility out of the pen is going to be important for us.
Do you see guys working it internally for that, or is that something where you may?
I think there are candidates who are internally for that. Something we're also going to look externally, whether it's major league signings, waiver claims, minor league signings, but pitchers who have the ability to give you more than 3 outs at a time.
Is anybody besides Mauricio going to play winter ball?
Acuna is playing winter ball. Yeah, he's playing right now. Brazo might for a little while. Brazopon. I think that's it.
How do you view Acuna moving forward, given that you have so many young infielders and still some coming in the minor leagues right now?
Yeah, look, Acuna is such a unique player because the floor is so high of what he can provide, because he's such a good defender, gifted defender in multiple positions, and an elite base runner. And so the offensive contribution doesn't need to be elite for him to solidify an everyday role on a major league team. So I still have very high hopes for him. We need to see a little bit more offensive contribution than we've probably seen previously, but he is a very, very good defensive player, and there's a real role for that on a good team.
Given all of the closers on the market right now, or this winter, how do you think that could affect Edwin Diaz's value?
I don't know that it affects Edwin's value. I mean, I think Edwin has demonstrated his value consistently. I think he's one of the best closers in baseball. He's proven that, and so I don't know that the volume of closers necessarily impacts him.
David, if you guys didn't re-sign Edwin Diaz, would you be open to maybe utilizing multiple players in that ninth inning role?
I don't know. I think if we don't sign a particular player, we'll kind of cross that bridge. But as I said, we're going to fill multiple vacancies in our pen. I would expect some of them are going to be more back end oriented, and I would expect some of them will be more help us fill out other parts of the game.